That was theatrical, wasn't it?
How's it going there, sir? You all right?
Yeah, very good.
This week, it's classic 80s comedy Dirty Rotten Scoundrels from 1988, starring Steve Martin and Michael Caine. The second Michael Caine film to be featured on our podcast. The first being Jaws the Revenge. One he probably doesn't like to be remembered for, but there you go.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he tries not to talk about that, I'm sure.
So you messaged me this fact as well, Robin, but I'd also... This is a remake, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Yes.
Of a film called Bedtime Stories.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who it starred?
Oh, it did.
In the original?
Marlon Brando and...
Yeah. Marlon Brando is the Steve Martin character.
I can't think... I was going to say David Niven, but it isn't. But I think that's...
It is David
Is
Niven.
it David Niven?
It is David Niven, yeah.
And you see...
And that's who Michael Caine has based he's based his character on
Yes.
in this one, hasn't he? With
Yeah.
the little thin moustache.
Yeah, and the slick back hair sort of... Yeah, definitely.
And whereas the original version was designed to be a vehicle for Cary Grant, Rock Hudson and Doris Day, it ended up not starring any of those. And this version was originally written for, do you know who? 2 pop stars?
Pop stars?
Yeah.
Ah.
Or rock stars.
No, don't.
David Bowie and Mick Jagger.
Well, thank
Was
goodness for
originally gonna
that,
start-
because thank goodness they were busy.
It was based after the success of their Dancing on the Streets video. Have you seen that?
What on earth? Hollywood's gone mental.
I know. Bizarre. But as we say, this was a remake, and when they were trying to convince Michael Caine to join forces, you know, Frank Oz was saying, come and do this film. He wasn't the first choice. There was quite a few other choices. John Cleese, Michael Palin were both considered for the role of Lawrence. But Michael Caine said to Frank Oz, why are you remaking this film? It flopped. Why would you remake a flop? And then Frank Oz said, well, why would you remake a successful film? Which I wish people stuck to that now.
This is so true.
Just
because the other film that I watched off the back of watching this one this morning was The Hustle.
Yeah, with Rebel Wilson.
Yep.
And
I dreamed a dream and things like that.
yeah, out of Lewis and Marbles.
Yes.
Is it her?
Yeah, Anne
Hathaway.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Easy for you to say.
Well, funny you should mention you watched that, Robin, because we started to watch that last night as well. I say started. You obviously got further than me. What did you make of it?
What did I make of it? Let's move on. It was a shocker. It followed the story almost exactly up until the sort of last bit where they sort of switched their roles around a little bit.
Yeah, what I got from watching The Hustle, just get this out of the way and then we go on with the film. We will get there.
Okay, go on.
Well, it's like, yes, I watched Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and at the end I thought, that was brilliant. You know, it was charming, it's funny,
Yeah.
it's really clever. And then watching The Hustle, it's like everything. They just have to make everything so vulgar, the comedy these days. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
I was going to say almost smutty.
Doesn't need it, does it?
It's like unnecessarily so, isn't it? I don't know if you got to the bit where she was in the prison cell, and it was just there, and I just thought they're trying too hard to be funny as well with a lot of it, instead of it actually being well done.
Because the prison scene in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels was brilliant.
Yeah, simple.
It's like I was crying watching that.
Simple. It's just job done.
Just watching him try to recount his name. So, director Frank Oz, this is I think it was his 4th film he's directed, but it was his first film that didn't have puppets in. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, before he directed this, he directed The Muppets Take
Right.
Manhattan,
Right.
The Dark Crystal, and The Little Shop of Horrors.
Ah, okay.
Because director Frank Oz, obviously, he is a Muppet. He is
Yes.
this piggy.
But he is also, let's not forget, Master Yoda.
Yoda. Yeah.
And of course, in this film, who else turns up?
Oh, Palpatine.
He does, doesn't he, right? I was like, oh my God, it's Palpatine. He's going to be a bad guy. And then he wasn't.
I can't remember ever seeing him in anything else. Can you?
No, not at all, actually.
No,
It's fair to say.
I think Michael Caine is great casting for this character.
Yeah, perfect.
It's a brilliant duo. He's great as the straight man.
Yes.
But he does get some good laughs as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he does them in... It's timing. That's all it is. He doesn't have to be anything over the top. He doesn't try to be ridiculously funny.
No.
He just does his stuff. He's Michael Caine, isn't he, basically?
So it is a classic 80s film. It just
Did you think, though, we talk about films aging, don't we?
Yeah.
Did you think it had aged? Or did you think it just sat nicely where it was?
Yeah, I think it's sort of almost timeless because of where it's set.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Perhaps Steve Martin's zany antics that perhaps date it, but I don't think they do. I think I actually looked up. I wanted to watch the original film. I was quite interested to have seen Marlon Brando as Ruprecht, but I didn't get there. Couldn't find it. There's no footage.
Yeah,
on
I mean,
seems a shame.
My wife was saying this morning. She said, "Do you think Steve Martin inspired Jim Carrey at all?"
Oh, they've got to have all.
I would imagine without a shadow of a doubt. To be fair, I thought some of his jangly, dancey bits that he was doing were a little bit unnecessary.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's how I mean. That's what's dated. If anything.
But that's just Steve Martin, isn't it? I mean, I thought for this one, he didn't need to go that far. Like there was the bit when they were looking out over over the ocean, and he's doing all this dance, and I'm just thinking, why are you doing that?
I want this.
Yeah, I was thinking, why is he playing that? Why is he doing that? But
he is all arms and legs.
But then on the other hand, when he was being Ruprecht, that's just the funniest thing. We'll get there in a sec, I'm sure. But
because, basically, so Steve Martin is a crass American, isn't he? He's got no class, and
absolutely,
Michael Caine thinks he wins him over by having his detective friend follow Steve Martin, taking photos, and then showing the woman that Steve Martin had tried to con that he's spending her money. Then he gets put into prison.
He's standing there in his Speedos, just like, oh, that dated.
But that scene when he's in the prison and he's trying to remember Michael Caine's name, I was just dying at that.
Yeah.
Lawrence Jesterson, James Jameson. And it's times like that where I think Steve Martin's great. I do love it. So now he's on board with Michael Caine. Michael Caine is going to train him up. Just basically to get rid of him, really, isn't he? He's going to make his life hell.
And then he's not going to pay him, and he knows he's going to, at some point, get fed up and leave because he thinks he can do better and all of those things. That's the gist of it.
Yeah. But then there's the montage scene there, which I said, the Rebel Wilson one, I was just like, that was the point where I was like, this isn't funny. Yeah. They're not training for any, it's not relevant to the film what she's doing.
She was loving knives and stuff, wasn't she?
just trying to jump over
the gymnastics horse
gymnastics. It's like what the fuck is that all about? But the montage scene in this I thought was great. It was just Steve Martin doing trying to be posh,
beautifully done.
Michael Caine showing him how to walk and lean up against the fit, and Steve Martin just not being able to get it. It was just good fun.
Yeah, it was really nicely done. I thought that was really good.
So the first thing you get. See Steve Martin doing all the training to become this sophisticated individual, but then he doesn't need any of that because he's playing Ruprecht, the monkey boy.
I mean, when they go into the room for the first time, you're sort of walking along and you're thinking, where are they going here? And I was my brain was scrambling, trying to remember the entire film. I could kind of remember it, but I was thinking, what is he doing? What's the thing he's doing in this bit? And then when he goes in and there's the monkey tire,
he just sits down quickly on the seat, doesn't he? And then the tire's swinging, and he's acting all innocent. Good. But yeah, Michael Caine is trying to he's getting the money off these women by promising that they're going to get married, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to marry a prince," and then he's like, "Oh, of course, my brother will have to come with us," and he's the deterrent.
Exactly, he uses his brother.
And they're
to get
at
away.
first "Oh, 2 princes for the price of 1," and then when he's showing them his quarters, where are we going? What's out here?
It's so good.
Just the way that when Michael Caine taking the woman out there, she's looking worried. He's like, "Oh, it's okay. no sudden moves, just the way he drops all these lines. And then when he's like, this is my fiance, we're getting married and we're going to move to Oklahoma. And then Steve Martin's like, looks disturbed. He goes up, starts knocking all the pots off the shelves, all the vases.
Crockery and stuff, yeah.
Ruprecht, do you want the genital cuff? Obviously, he says, when he's like, what do we do when we have guests? And he gets that rubber glove on and puts some of that lubricant.
What was that was something to do with his uncle, wasn't it? What do we do with Uncle so-and-so came over? Rubber glove comes on. And then the lube. No, after that.
We apologised. Michael Caine said he knew it was going to be funny because no one was laughing making it. But how can you watch Steve Martin doing all these things and not be laughing?
I mean, that's some skill right there, isn't it?
So they go their separate ways. They see the new Mark. What's her name? Colgate, isn't it?
Yes, Janet Colgate. Why do you think they called her Janet Colgate? That was a bit
Leanne
odd.
Headley. I think it's something to do with the original film. Was like the woman said she was like her dad made toothpaste or something like that. So I think they've just carried the name on to insinuate it, but without sort of saying it. Something like that. I read something somewhere. So now, they've sort of going against each other, and the first place they go to hustle this woman, and it is at the casino, and I can't remember what Michael Caine's plan is, but he's sort of matching her bet.
His play is that he puts his on the same one as the woman does, and then when they lose, he goes, can you sell this ring or something, because I need the money desperately. And the woman sort of goes, oh, and then follows him and finds out what his story is. So he's doing that con, but it doesn't work because they keep winning. And so it's not working anyway for him, and he actually ends up cashing in, doesn't he, with getting loads of money and going, what terrible luck.
Yeah, that's right. He's putting all his chips in, goes, just wasn't working out for me tonight.
And then you're waiting for Steve Martin to appear, and then suddenly it's, excuse me, and he comes with a wheelchair. He comes with all his medals on and that, and sort of butts his way in.
And then he tries to cash in his medal, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So then she's all over him.
And away it goes.
The detective's listening in as Steve Martin's giving her this sob story about how his wife, they had Dancing USA competition. And then he caught his wife having sex with the host, and then his legs completely give up, and that's how he's paralysed. So it's not physical, it's mental.
But he isn't doing it for himself, is he? He's doing it for his grandma. She needs an operation.
Really elaborate lies, isn't it? And then she's like, but why can't you do it yourself? Oh, I could never afford $50,000 for mine. Yeah. And then he says about this Dr. Schaffhausen.
Yes.
And so the woman writes this letter out for Dr. Schaffhausen and then goes down to the reception to give it away, just as a bellboy comes through. Dr. Schaffhausen?
And then he's behind the newspaper and all you see is his arm go... he takes his fingers out and you just think, brilliant, he's got him.
So he steps in as Dr. Schaffhausen. She comes back, you'll never believe it, I found Dr. Schaffhausen.
The door opens slowly.
His face is just like, oh God. And then he's like, do you feel this? And he's tickling his toes, and then he gets that bit of plant out, whipping his legs. Yes. Stand back, my love.
And he's got tears running down his face.
He's so happy he's crying. But he's having to, every time he's getting his legs whipped, he's having to like just sit there and
he sort of goes puts his hands on his temples and stuff.
Nope.
Yeah, no, can't feel a thing.
But it just doesn't stop, does it? Every time one gets the upper hand, you think, oh, and then the other one will outplay him and outwit him. It's just great. Did you find yourself rooting for Steve Martin, though, when you're watching this? Because I think I do. I think I'm always like, I want Steve Martin to win out.
Yeah,
watching it.
I don't know. I think Steve Martin was pushing his luck. And I think the thing about this film is, which the Hustle didn't get right as well because they switched the characters around, was that Michael Caine was the gentleman, wasn't he? And he kind of like concedes at the end that he loses, and even like how admires the con.
Yeah.
and he's like a real pro, whereas Steve Martin's just taking the mickey out, just pushing his luck with everyone. So I was weirdly supportive of Michael Caine. At times, but then
he is the more noble character, because as soon as the woman says, I haven't got this money, I'm not rich, and Michael Caine sort of bows out there, doesn't he? He says to Steve Martin, we're not doing this.
That's the bit he says, this is wrong.
So then Steve Martin's like, well, let's change the bet. Let's see who can get in bed with her first.
Yeah.
And even then Michael Caine's like, well, I'll do the bet, but I don't want that.
Yeah, exactly.
So he is the gentleman to the end, isn't he?
But then, rather than rooting for either of them, I just love the next step sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's things like when he's carrying Steve Martin out to the car, and he lobs him in. So, it's just Steve Martin's having to take it all, and he's sort of like...
And then they go back to the mansion, and Michael Caine takes her upstairs, and he's like butting his wheelchair against the stairs. And
then there's that beautiful bit where they're actually starting to dance, and it swings round to the door, and he's laying on the floor. Dragged himself up the stairs.
You're dancing.
Yeah, it's beautifully done. I think, once you got into that to-ing and fro-in stuff, it was great fun.
Yeah, just the whole reveal then of the plot, once Steve Martin's trying to bed her, and he's like, I can walk for you. And she's, oh, that would be amazing. And then she goes over to the bed, and he's like, one step at a time, taking his clothes off. And then he jumps onto her on the bed, and he's about to kiss her. And then you just hear Michael Caine clapping. And he's like, turns around, he's in the corner of the room. Sat there. And she's like, oh, I can't believe you knew he was going to do that. And you really know people so well.
Yeah, it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
So cleverly done. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a fab film.
It is. And I do love the ending where she, because I remember watching it at first. I think I even revisited it like a couple of years ago. And I think I'd forgotten the twist at that point, watching it again.
Yes.
And it just brilliant when it worked, when it all falls in place.
My God.
She turns up at Michael Caine's, and she's like, oh, he came back and he stole all my money. And Michael Caine's like, oh, this is awful. I feel responsible. Here, I'll give you £50,000, $50,000. Gives it to her in the bag. They're putting it on the plane, and she turns around and she says, look, this doesn't belong to me. You have it. And he's like, what a woman, And then Steve Martin turns up. Don't let her fly off. She's got all my money.
In his dressing gown.
She's got everything. And then he's like, what are you talking about? I just gave her this money and she gave it straight back. And then they open it up and it's all Steve Martin's clothes.
Yeah.
And I just,
brilliantly done. I suppose the only thing we didn't talk about from the film, I guess, in the end, was the ending where she comes back.
Oh, yeah. To me, that was the only bit I thought was probably not needed.
Yeah, in my cynical, if that was a film today as The Hustle, my cynical voice in my head would have been saying, oh, they've just set that up for a sequel.
Yeah.
But obviously that wasn't really what they were doing.
Because in this, it would have been good to see her again, but she didn't have to come back and go, come on, boys, we're all in this together now.
I think that was the easiest way to just put it to bed at the end of the film.
Her
Otherwise, you'd have needed another half an hour.
You don't see her as a con artist, do you?
Yes.
You just realise you've been con. That's all it was, to sort of show that she's the con artist. Just in case you didn't get it.
Yeah, so I guess the film, for me, tailed off a little bit once Michael Caine had backed down. It sort of felt a little bit more disjointed from there. If there was to be a criticism, it would be that from that point on, it sort of felt a little bit like it was just going through the motions, getting to the end.
Yeah, it set up the ending, but the final act of a film is very usually where everything's going on, isn't it? But it did sort of drop.
It did drop a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they stopped playing off each other then, didn't they?
Yeah.
And that was the bit that was winning it. To really have got it, nailed it 100%, they'd have had to gone all the way to the twist at the end where they both think they've won.
Yeah.
And she walks off with the money. That would have been the real twist. But, how would you... I don't know how you set up.